I never even thought pregnancy with my ostomy would ever be a possibility for myself, let alone delivering vaginally. Hey guys, it's Maggie and I am back today, and I'm really excited for this video because this is the type of information that I was looking for when I was not even pregnant yet. I didn't know if I could have a baby, but I wanted to know information about people who lived with an ostomy and delivered a baby vaginally. I always assumed, growing up, I was pretty young when I got my ostomy, that if I were ever pregnant, of course I would have to deliver through a C-section. And as I got older and I met people who actually had babies, carried pregnancies with their stomas, I learned that that was not necessarily the case. While that was super encouraging, I always sort of felt like I was worst case scenario, like everything went wrong with my body. And I am so happy to share with you guys that that's not how it worked out this time. This was one of the first positive, or really the only positive hospitalization I've ever had. It was rough. It was a hospital stay, but in terms of labor and delivery, I'm really fortunate. I feel so lucky with how things worked out. I want to share my experience with you guys, everything that went down that day, from how I dealt with my ostomy throughout laboring, because I did have an epidural, to pushing and how my stoma reacted to that, because that was the thing I was most scared of. But before we get into it, I do want to thank today's sponsor, somebody who's had a huge impact with my ostomy care, and that is my favorite, 𝙗𝙗𝙗 𝙗𝙗𝙗 is a zero sugar electrolyte without all the extra stuff like gluten, artificial flavors, colorings, things like that. And this summer they came out with a new flavor, lemonade salt, and I have to tell you guys, it has quickly become my favorite flavor, and I have gone through quite a bit of it because even in pregnancy I felt like I was really having to uptick my intake of hydration, but postpartum breastfeeding, I'm really thirsty, so this stuff is being guzzled down. But of course, all their other flavors like the raspberry one, the orange one, the watermelon one, and the grapefruit one, I love all of them, but this guy you should really try. Today we are going to be talking about my ostomy, and one of the things that I've dealt with the most with my stoma is dehydration. And now I'm starting to see an uptick of that postpartum because my bowels are sort of regulating to what they were prior. Things are speeding up a little bit, and that means I am really relying on this. I am noticing that the fatigue and the headaches that I experience when it comes to dehydration, even like dry skin right now, that is increasing, and the only thing that's been helping me is 𝙗𝙗𝙗. Each serving of 𝙗𝙗𝙗 provides what I feel like is the perfect balance of electrolytes. It's got the 1,000 milligrams of sodium, 200 of potassium, and 60 of magnesium, and I just feel like it's the perfect amount, perfect mixture for making me feel my best every single day. And 𝙗𝙗𝙗 is kindly offering a free sample pack with any order of 𝙗𝙗𝙗 by going to drinkelementt.com/LetsTalkIBD. That's drinkelementt.com/LetsTalkIBD. Make sure to get your sample pack along with your order today. Oh my gosh, it's my favorite. Well, I talk about it enough, I think, but it's pretty dang good. Okay, so let's get into ostomies and labor and delivery. I think the first thing that comes to mind when it came to this whole experience was actually a few weeks prior to me going into labor, and it's something that I thought might happen. It's happened basically in every hospitalization I've had. My OB actually recommended that I bring my own supplies, and she had said, this was not the one that delivered my baby, but this was one of the ones that I had seen. She said, hey, we might not have the stuff that you like to use. We do obviously carry ostomy supplies, but there are so many options out there, and we might not have what you want to use, what you feel most comfortable using. And I know I had mentioned that I was going to do that anyway. I packed my little supply kit, my little travel kit, and I had some comments from people saying, hey, why are you worrying about that? Like, they're going to have stuff for you. that's exactly why, is because I have my own way of doing things that is not necessarily straightforward. So I figured they probably wouldn't have the stuff that I like and do the things that I like to do. So that was the first thing I found interesting, and I was really glad that she said that. I don't know how much experience my OB team has with stomas, how many they've seen in action, but that made me feel really good. I was like, oh, okay, these are the things, you know, the critical thinking skills, they're putting in the thought for this, and that made me feel a little bit more confident going into this. I should mention that if you hear any noises, I've got baby girl over here. So hopefully she's good. Hopefully she's settled for this video. We shall see. If there's any cuts, you'll know why. Anyways, there were a couple things that I had brought to the hospital with me, totally intended to use, and I would still recommend using. Everything just happened so quickly. It was so unexpected, and honestly, labor was a lot faster than I thought it would be. So the first thing is a stoma cloak. I really like using my stoma cloak. It's an ostomy cover, and it helps, if you have minor leaks, it helps contain them. And I kept thinking to myself, you know, you're gonna have an epidural, you're not gonna be able to get out of bed. What if something happens to your ostomy and you can't clean it up right away, you can't get over to the bathroom to deal with it? It might be helpful to have a cover on. And then I was also thinking, once I deliver and they put baby girl on me, potentially all gross and bloody, how can I protect my ostomy bag? So I wanted to wear that. Unfortunately, things just happened so quickly. It was in my hospital bag, and I didn't put it on because holy cow, that day was a rush. The other thing was the Halo Ostomy Guard. That is like a little plastic dome that adheres to the outside of your ostomy bag and kind of lifts your bag off of the stoma. It protects it. So I thought with that, with the monitors they put around your belly, it would help, you know, take the pressure off of my stoma if they happen to lay across my bag. Thankfully, the monitors actually both went above my ostomy bag. You might have seen people post photos or seen videos or whatever of a pink and a blue monitor that are wrapped around your belly. They check your contractions as well as the baby's heart rate. Both were above my bag. I was so surprised because I have a fairly high up stoma. I don't have a large torso. It's pretty short, but that worked out well. So thankfully we got through it fine, but those are two things that I wanted to use. It was just a crazy day, and basically did not expect any of it to happen that day. Now, when it comes to actually managing the ostomy bag throughout the day, I went into labor pretty early in the morning. It was like 5:30. We got to the hospital around 10 a.m. and I got an epidural as soon as I could. That pain, it went from 0 to 100. I kind of mentioned this in my labor story video. A nurse practitioner checked me to see if I was dilating at all, and my water had broken at that point, but it was more of a trickle. Once she checked me, the water just, it all came out. It came rushing out, and that just amped up the contractions. I thought I was going to pass out from the pain. I've dealt with a lot of pain in my lifetime with surgeries and things like that. I've never experienced a pain that was so intense and then released, and I felt okay for a few seconds. And my contractions were so... Apparently they were longer than typical contractions. Some of mine were over 2 minutes long, and at one point they were less than a minute apart from each other. So anyways, we got the epidural pretty quickly, and this meant that I could not get in and out of bed. I could not feel one of my legs. I was actually surprised early on with the epidural. I could move my legs a bit. I just couldn't really feel them super well. But I could shift myself in bed a bit. After a while, we realized that the epidural was definitely one-sided, and my right leg went completely numb. Like, it was a dead weight. I felt like I didn't have a right leg anymore. I could not move it at all. When they wanted me to change positions, I could not help them. So basically anything bathroom related, I needed help with. That means that I was cathed. I did not have an indwelling catheter, meaning that they put a catheter in for urine and it stayed in. They straight cathed me, I think twice the whole time, and that's how I peed. But when it comes to my ostomy, I don't know if it's more convenient. I don't know how often people that are fully boweled, you know, no issues, are having to have a bowel movement other than when they're pushing. I guess that's the benefit for me. I didn't have a bowel movement while delivering, but my ostomy was still active. I had eaten that morning. You know, I wanted to make sure that I had some energy before we left the house, so that tends to make my ostomy active. Things go through me a little bit more quickly. And so the first thing that I needed to do was my ostomy bag filled with air and I needed to burp my bag. Thankfully, I use deodorizers in my bag. They're just droplets that you put in there and they completely eliminate odor. So I was able to do this in my hospital room and not gross anybody out. The only person there at the time was Zach. And I told him, turn the other way, look out the window or something, because I don't want you to see me do this. I don't know. I like to take care of my ostomy, and I don't like other people necessarily see me burp my bag or empty it or things like that. Even my own husband. I know some people find that strange. It's just something, that's where I draw the line. I don't know. So I had him turn his back and I burped the bag, no problem. As the day went on and I started to have more numbness, especially on that right side, my bag started to fill. I knew that I was going to need to empty. I had a plan for this. So I like to use non-drainable bags, and I know a lot of people find that very strange with an ileostomy. People love to tell me, you should use a drainable bag. It's just not what I prefer. I've had my ostomy for a very long time. I've used drainable bags for years, and once I started using the non-drainable ones, they just work really well for me. And this is actually very convenient for me when I'm needing to empty on the go, because I can just take my bag off, dispose of it, and clip on a new one. This is because when it comes to insurance coverage and stuff, you actually get a lot more non-drainable bags than you do drainable bags. I think oftentimes people will get 20 drainable bags per month. I think I get either 30 or 60, I want to say 60 non-drainable bags per month. So I don't often do this. I don't often just take off the whole bag and dispose of it and put on a new one. But if I'm out and about, it's a really convenient way to care for it. What I did was I brought along Fab little bags. These are little trash baggies that close with adhesive. They're odor resistant, so I knew that I could dispose of my ostomy bag in the Fab little bags and be good. As my bag started to fill, I knew I was going to have to empty it somehow, change out the bag, and I told Zach, and at this point I was having a lot of pain, so I didn't care anymore. He was in the room when I changed out my bag. I asked him to get me some paper towels, which I just put underneath my stoma because I was lying back. I don't like to lie back when I handle my ostomy because it can be a bit of a volcano and output can go anywhere if I start to have any come out of my stoma. But I didn't have an option. Like, I was not able to move. I could not sit up. I was worried I was going to pull the epidural out too. I was very nervous about that. So Zach got me set up with paper towels. I put it all around and I unclipped my bag as carefully as possible, put it into the little trash baggie, and clipped on my new one. This was really strange. This was the really difficult part about this. Because the epidural was so right-sided, it actually started to go up my belly. And when I was pushing on the new bag, you want to hear a click. You want to hear the rings click together. And I needed to push down really hard, but it was such a bizarre feeling. Everything was completely numb. Like, I couldn't even tell that I had a stoma. Like, I could have peeled my bag off, ripped it off, and I would not have felt it at all. So pushing on the bag, I couldn't tell if I was putting enough pressure to clip it on there. You know, I'm listening for the click. I didn't quite hear it. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, is this on there? So once I thought I had gotten it clicked together, I asked Zach to take a good look at my flange and my bag. I said, does it look like they're completely clicked together? I lifted up my bag so he could look all the way around. He said, looks good to me. And then when the nurse came in, I had her double check. Just because Zach doesn't see a ton of ostomies, I'm independent with my care, so he's not super familiar. Like, he could do a bag change, but he's not doing one every day, or he's not managing an ostomy every day like I am. So I asked the nurse, could you just double check? Because I thought, you know, she's probably seen them more. And she said, yes, it looks like it's all good. And that was it. I only took my bag off to empty one time throughout labor. And the next time, I don't think I had to deal with it until maybe the next morning. I delivered around 10:30 at night, and because I hadn't eaten all day long, I think, you know, that slowed things down. So I didn't have to do anything with it. Now, the thing that I was the most worried about, especially as I started to get nearer and nearer to my due date, was pushing, because you're at risk anytime you have abdominal surgery, but especially if you have a stoma, you are at risk for hernias. And I, you know, knock on some wood for me, I've never experienced a hernia. I got my ostomy when I was 16, and I feel really good about it. My pelvic floor therapist even evaluated me, and she said, you know, you have a lot of core strength. You have a lot of abdominal strength, which is great. And so I don't know if that has helped, but I've never had a hernia. I've never even had a prolapse of my stoma. So I was hopeful going into this, and I'm really grateful to say that I didn't even think about my stoma while pushing. I remember a few minutes before, you know, the nurse said, hey, you're ready to push. I'm thinking to myself, what am I, like, how am I going to manage my stoma? I'm going to need to be holding on to, like, the side of the bed to be able to push and bear down. I feel like I need to take a hand and hold my stoma in. If you live with an ostomy, you might know, you might have this feeling as well. I don't know. When you sneeze, what do? Do you hold your stomach? Because I do. It's been 15 years, never had a prolapse, never had issues, but I still, like, if I feel a strong sneeze or if I have a really bad cough, if I'm sick, I put pressure on my stoma to make sure it's not going anywhere. So I felt like I would need to do that while pushing, and it turns out, like, I didn't even think about it during pushing, and it was totally fine. It didn't do a thing. I was able to push no problem. You know, the nurse kind of taught me how to do it, and she said, you want to take a deep breath. You don't want to push with your chest, though, or necessarily, like, breathe out while you're pushing. You want to push downwards. You want to push low. I don't know how to describe it. I am not a labor and delivery nurse, but that's sort of how she told me. And apparently I got it right on the first try. I had the movement down, which made me feel really good, because that was another concern. Do I have the muscle strength? You know, I also have my colon rectum removed. I don't have the anal sphincter anymore. It's all closed up. And there was some muscle removed down there. There is some weakness. So I was a little bit worried, will I have that strength and the muscle tone there to be able to do this? And I did. I'm just so glad it worked out that way. I didn't think that my pushing would be effective. I honestly thought I'd be pushing for hours, and then they would tell me I'm not making any progress and let's go for a C-section. That's not how it worked out. I think I pushed for an hour and a half or so, and it did not feel like that at all. I have to say, the labor part, like the contractions and whatnot, that was not fun. And I don't think anybody says that it's fun. It was very painful. But when it came to pushing, it was so relieving. There was some pain to it, but it was not like the pain of contractions. It just felt like we're meeting our goal. We're getting to the end of this. We are almost there. And that's exactly what it was. And yeah, I was able to deliver my baby girl, and it felt like such an accomplishment. I mean, any way that you can meet your baby, C-section or vaginally, however it works out, is how it works out. Like, that's great. But I felt so accomplished that my body was able to do this one thing that I thought would never be a possibility for me. So it felt like a big win. I know I keep saying that in all my videos. It's such an accomplishment. And not to mention, I was grateful. Like, after my ectopic surgery where I had the C-section scar done, like that's how they did the incision rather than laparoscopically, knowing that pain, without even having to pull a baby out of that incision, knowing that pain, I don't know how people have a C-section and then bring a newborn home and have to do all the things, have to breastfeed and carry their baby around while also being told not to carry anything heavy around. I cannot imagine it. And delivering vaginally, all I had was a small superficial tear. They had a couple stitches. I've now given it a look. I have looked at it and it doesn't look bad at all. Honestly, I can't tell what the stitch is for. I can see where the stitch is, but the tissue looks fine. So isn't that crazy? So yes, a vaginal delivery is possible with an ostomy. Finally, I think I should share about my actual stoma, because I shared all through pregnancy about how it had swollen, it had gotten longer, it had grown in diameter. I had to adjust how I did my ostomy care, and my belly right after delivery went down so much, like insanely. And I'll tell you right now, I'm like 3.5 weeks out from having baby girl, and my belly, you would not know that I just had a baby. I did not expect that whatsoever. I have a short torso, like she was pushing outwards. I really thought there would be some evidence, which kind of makes me sad. Like I kind of liked having the belly. I liked having her in there, and you know, it is what it is. I have her right over there. I can look at her. So that's the bonus. But yeah, my belly went back to normal. My stoma did stay swollen for, I would say, a couple weeks. And now it's kind of going back to where it was pre-pregnancy. The diameter of it is just about where it used to be pre-pregnancy. The length of it, though, it's still a little longer. I wouldn't call it a prolapse stoma by any means, but it's definitely longer than it used to be. And that could be that my uterus is still kind of large and taking up space. I don't know. It may go back in, it may not. We'll just have to see. But diameter-wise, it's fine, so I can pretty much go back to the old way of how I changed my bags. So yeah, that was my labor and delivery experience specific to having a stoma. And I can't believe we are on the other side of it. For how long was I talking about my ostomy concerns all through pregnancy? And I'm just grateful that, I don't know, it felt like my intestines regulated and my stoma really didn't, it wasn't impacted too greatly where I felt like my quality of life was impacted. So I feel very fortunate that it worked out that way. I know that may not be the case for everybody with an ostomy who goes through pregnancy, but this is just my experience, and it was very positive. And you know, I think it's good to share the positive side of things too, not always the negative. So yes, that is my labor and delivery ostomy story. Hopefully, if you are hoping to carry a pregnancy and deliver, hopefully this was encouraging to you. This is exactly the kind of stuff that I was looking for even before I got pregnant. And Megan Brown, if you know her, she's on Instagram. She posted her first pregnancy on Instagram and shared her experience, how she had a vaginal delivery. She's now about to deliver her third baby. I think she just passed her due date, so we're waiting to see when baby comes. But yeah, she was very encouraging to me, and hopefully I can do that on YouTube for others. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching this video, and thank you again to Element for sponsoring this video. Make sure to get your free sample pack with any order of Element by going to drinkelement.com/LetsTalkIBD. Try out the lemonade salt flavor. I highly recommend it. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching, and I will see you in the next. Bye guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. If you are looking for a way to help support my channel, consider liking this video or even subscribing. You can also check out my store at LetsTalkIBD.shop. I have stickers and hoodies like these guys over here, just related to chronic illness and inflammatory bowel disease, something fun. And I also have a coupon code for my YouTube watchers. You could also become a member of my channel, like the wonderful people scrolling on screen here. They've become a member and they have access to videos a little bit earlier. It's a great way to support my channel, and really, just watching my videos means the world. Thank you so much, and I'll see you in the next.